The sales SSID will use a Meraki-specific form of centralized authentication that resembles 802.1x. We're back at the Wireless SSID menu to create our second SSID, this time for the sales organization. We'll modify unconfigured SSID 2 by first enabling it using this dropdown. I'll move a little faster this time since you've already seen this process. I'll rename this network to Globo Sales by clicking the rename link, typing in the new name, and clicking Save Changes. Just like last time, let's change the default options to suit our needs. For our security choice, we'll select Enterprise with Meraki Cloud Authentication. Let's quickly examine the other choices by expanding the dropdown. In traditional WPA2 enterprise deployments, 802.1x communicates with a remote radius server to authenticate clients joining the network. This is more secure than the pre-shared key used in the engineering SSID, but requires more infrastructure and coordination. Local auth allows the Meraki access point itself to act as a radius server, which might be useful in networks with slow or degraded WANs. We'll use Meraki Cloud Authentication, which allows us to enumerate users allowed to join this network. It's essentially a Meraki managed authentication server, which is tightly integrated with the dashboard. Like last time, we'll use the default settings for WPA2 and the various 802.11 standards. However, we should enable mandatory DHCP for extra security. We'll also skip enabling a splash page for now. Let's select external DHCP server assigned for this SSID so that it becomes a transparent extension of the wired network. This is the same thing we did for the engineering SSID from the previous clip. We also need to enable VLAN tagging so that this traffic looks different from the engineering traffic. This SSID maps to VLAN 4006, which is transported up to the switch over the same VLAN trunk used by the other SSIDs. Okay, it's time to save our changes. Our next step is to create users within the dashboard for authentication purposes. I'll highlight network-wide to begin. Like so many things in Meraki, there are multiple links to the same place, improving ease of use. You can click Users from the left-hand menu or the Users link from the Access Control page we are currently on. I'll click the drop-down menu option. Note that these users are specified on a per SSID basis, so if you navigate here before you configure a Meraki Cloud Authenticated SSID, you won't be able to do anything. The SSID context is Globo Sales, so we can continue by clicking Add New User on the right-hand side. This menu is pretty basic, and I don't want to bore you by dragging this out. I'll fill in my personal information quickly. This user needs to be explicitly authorized, so I'll select Yes from this dropdown. You can optionally set an expiration duration, but I'll skip that. If you are creating users for other people, it's wise to check this box so that their initial password will be emailed to them. Here's a screenshot of what that email looks like. I'll click Create User to complete the process. Finally, I'll click Save Changes. Here's my iPhone again, which is currently connected to the Globo Engineering network. Let's click on Globo Sales to join this new SSID. This time, we are prompted for a username and password rather than just a pre-shared key by itself. I'll enter my email address and password that correspond to the user I just created, then click Join. Meraki's Radius server is presenting a certificate to me, which I will trust. After a few seconds, we see the blue check mark indicating a successful connection. I'd strongly encourage you to perform client-side and switch-side verifications if you're following along, because mastering those steps will save you a lot of suffering in the future. However, for the sake of brevity, I'll limit our verification to the dashboard. Let's highlight network-wide on the left. Then I'll click Clients, just like we did previously. We see two clients here using different MAC addresses. That's because my iPhone uses a privacy setting to randomize this address on different SSIDs. If you look closely, you'll see that one has a green Wi-Fi symbol while the other is gray. Another indicator is that the third octet of the IP addresses are different, clearly indicating different VLANs within our design. To clean up this table, let's add a filter by clicking the Search dropdown. We can filter based on various attributes, but we currently care about the status. By selecting Online, we will ignore all offline clients, as an example. Once that is supplied, you'll see the text of status:online automatically entered into the box, which you could have typed manually. Click back into the main window to hide this dropdown. Now we see our online client by itself. Let's click on the client's link to learn more. This time, the SSID is Globo Sales, but the other details are largely the same. Because our security strategy requires a unique username, that username is reflected here, and we can see that 802.1x was used. Keep in mind that you can rename individual clients using the pencil icon, just like we did with the access points. Beyond those minor discussion points, everything looks good here.